Good afternoon, folks. Thank you so much for coming to this Coronavirus Cocoon 5 awareness activity. If you see on your screen the PowerPoint, the front page, I found out this one this morning. Um, I went back and forth. Stacy and I uh, talking about the concepts of emerging from our coronavirus cocoons. For me, that began to envelop a concept of preparing to come out of our cocoons. That I saw Stacy make a posting this morning that talked about preparing to spread our wings. Since I've been doing these coronavirus cocoon webinars, I've been excited about the activity as well as the way it becomes developed. Usually about 3 days before, I'll come together with a pretty rough draft of the PowerPoint as a result of looking at different resources, especially images that I think would pass on the message that Stacy and I want to pass on. And then yesterday, I thought I had it pretty much complete. And then when I saw it being advertised as preparation or preparing to spread our wings, that cemented it for me because it really took me where wanted to bring this. Preparing to spread our wings. If you see this image of this long road going into the mountains, um, life must be a preparation for the transition to another dimension. It caught my eye immediately when I found it 3 days ago in Google Images when I was thinking about transition preparation. But this whole concept of to another dimension just strikes me as I was sitting listening to the music I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross, which was originally published in 1980. What was going on in my life in 1980? I was 30 years old. I was 3 years into trying to stay sober. I was 3 years removed from my last hospitalization. And in that sense as well, I was coming out. I was coming out of a different cocoon at that point. It was a cocoon of my alcoholism. It was a cocoon of my addiction to alcohol and my addiction to people, places, and things that weren't steadying me very well. So we're talking about 39 years ago, that song, I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross, when it was published, affected me and impacted who I was and how I was. And isn't that so much the power of music? We've talked about, soothing our souls while we're in this coronavirus cocoon. And that continues to apply today because as we think about preparing to spread our wings, as we think about preparing to leave the cocoon as a result of some of the restrictions being lifted. In Connecticut, it'll be on the 20th of May. If you're just coming in from another state, I'm sure it's either already happened or it is happening. What we want to explore today as we prepare to spread our wings as we come out of our coronavirus cocoon, we want to think about what does that mean? We want to think about how do I get ready for this? How do I begin to spread my wings? Good afternoon, Carlos. Welcome, Laura D. Life must be a preparation for the transition to another dimension. Again, it's amazing. For me, that's why I love images. I always tell people that when I write a book, it'll probably be a series of PowerPoint presentations, and there'll be more images that will allow you to image in the information so that you can continue to look at it and think about it and grasp and see what meaning it has for you. Because that's what it does for me. When I looked at this initially, the preparation piece and the transition piece fit real well. And then when I was looking at it this morning, when I decided to make it my cover image, the word dimension hit me. Think about Recovery Coach Academy. Day 5, self-care. The dimensions of wellness. That clearly applies to preparing to spread our wings. Our ability and our willingness and our desire to experience another dimension, physical dimension, social dimension, spiritual dimension, mental dimension, psychological dimension, and even vocational or career dimension will come into play. I don't know about you, but I've been changed in the dimensions of my wellness and in the dimensions of my holistic nature of who I am during the course of being in this cocoon. And that change has taken place in the moods, the emotions, and the feelings. Think about that. Think about the dimension, and more appropriately, the dimensions that you will begin to embrace as you move out of your cocoon and begin to spread your wings and begin to come out. Life must be a preparation for the transition to another dimension beyond the coronavirus cocoon. Leaving the cocoon. That's what we're thinking about. That's what I want you to think about. In my role as a recovery coach, and appreciate the fact when I do these webinars, I am performing the role of a master recovery coach with a group of people, coaches, allies of recovery, friends of recovery, people who just saw the title and found it interesting relative to their own lives. And I want you to think about some things in a way you may not have thought about them before. And one of those concepts is leaving the cocoon. Leaving the cocoon is similar to our human journeys of transition and transformation. In the transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly, the caterpillar encloses itself into a cocoon and begins its transition to its transformation into a butterfly. Think about that in the context of coming out of our cocoons, re-entering the world, and it won't be the world that we knew before. Many people call it a new world, a new way, a new dimension of being and living and existing and leading our lives. So in many ways, leaving the cocoon is a transition and a transformation. And if you recall that your own transition and your own transformation in major changes you've made in your life, think about how important it was to think about them beforehand. Stephen Covey speaks about, in his Habits of Effective People, he talks about start with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind that we have for the caterpillar is a butterfly. What is the end in mind that you have as you come out of your own cocoon? Yes, the cocoon, the chrysalis. Gosh, I've learned a lot about caterpillars and butterflies and soul and children and the symbols that the butterfly has relative to children. Envision leaving the cocoon. Envision that prospect. Because that's what this webinar is about. It's about you imaging in. It's about you imagining. It's about you developing and creating, and I would hope at some level documenting your vision of who and what you will be as you come out of the cocoon. Like I said, I'm going to be different. And I'm not going to say if that's good or bad. I'm just saying I'm going to be different. I'm appreciating the vulnerability that was showcased as I'm living in this cocoon. And I appreciate the vulnerability that will continue to be a part of who I am as a result of me being 69 years old and living with heart failure. So I have to be very careful. I have to, at some level, in that carefulness, practice acceptance in relation to my vulnerability as I envision leaving my cocoon. Think about your perception of what's going to be comfortable and safe for you as you come out of your cocoon. And these are things we want to think about before rather than after. And again, we teach best what we most need to learn. So as you come out of your cocoon, and probably before you're leaving your cocoon, you continue to work with recoveries. You continue to guide your children and your grandchildren. You continue to make connections, so be it by media and technology, but you're making connections that you can begin to share what you're learning about what you're thinking about and what you're envisioning about leaving the cocoon. Those are conversations that I believe matter, that will help the people that you are making your own humble effort to help. It just demonstrates how caring isn't what I do, it's what I am. It demonstrates that the never-ending passion for doing this work is the never-ending activity of this work. When we see the end, the road is definitely less terrifying. When we see the end, it allows us to begin to build towards that ending or towards that transformation. However, the beginning of any transformation is transition. And I'm going to spend some time helping you to think about the transition beyond the cocoon. Keep writing, folks. I enjoy the ability to have a collaborative learning opportunity, and I certainly welcome your comments and thoughts. So I'll get to as many of them as I can. So envision leaving the cocoon. Is it time to leave your coronavirus cocoon? Is it time for you to leave your coronavirus cocoon? I think that's one of the thoughts that came up as Stacey and I thought about this webinar, because I think some people have expressed fear, some people have expressed a passion to become free, and the whole realm of emotions and feelings and perceptions and thoughts and doubts and fears and all, it runs the gamut. It runs the gamut. A shared passion for living. Is it time to leave your coronavirus cocoon? And how do you know? How do you know? I would hope some of the work that we do this today, in the course of the next 40 minutes or so, will help you to know more, will help you to gain some direction in your life on how you are going to lead yourself out of your cocoon. Notice I didn't say live yourself out of it. I didn't say survive yourself out of it. When we lead our lives, when we lead ourselves out of the cocoon, we become the leaders of our lives. Just as we work to help recoveries to learn how to lead their lives. You teach best what you most need to learn. And the beginning of leading our lives is creating a vision. Envisioning leaving the cocoon is your responsibility to create a vision. If you make a connection with someone that you're helping via telephone or Zoom or the various technologies that we've embraced and captured while we've been in our cocoons, share what stands out for you in this webinar, because that's what it's for. When you teach it, you learn it twice. You teach best what you most need to learn. So as we move through this, be gentle with yourselves, but also be honest with yourselves. Take responsibility for taking a look at your stuff, as it may have either developed or become magnified or occurs while we're in the cocoon, because we're going to come out and we have a responsibility to help others, but we got to help ourselves first. Yeah, Sharon, the world will be different. Your friendships from Zoom and the webinars have been amazing, and you bring them to the outside world as a result of the value that they have for us. I'm excited about many things that I've done while I've been in my cocoon because I've embraced the technology. I've been able to do many things via Zoom and via Skype and via the phone that I hadn't thought about before. Welcome, Robin. This is an image that I found several days ago, and initially it was going to be my cover image, and yet still applied to the work that we're doing. And if you can't see it, this is a picture of a half nude woman coming out of a cocoon. And it says, "Is it time for you to move to the next stage of your cocoon to butterfly transition?" This is what we want you to think about. Greetings, Ruth. Is it time for you to move to the next stage of your cocoon, of your butterfly cocoon, of your coronavirus cocoon to butterfly transition? And again, remember, transition leads to transformation. The butterfly just coming out of the cocoon has not fully formed its wings. That continues to be the transition process. And think about it in the context of you as well. When you come out of your cocoon, be open to what it feels like. Embrace what it feels like. Most importantly, be aware of what it feels like and how you think about it. And that will help you to spread your wings in the way that'll be most compatible to your vision of where you want, what you want to build from this experience. Is it time for you to move to the next stage of your coronavirus cocoon to transition and spread your wings? This is an image I'm pretty sure I've shown before, and this is the core of my work now. If you've seen this before, I would have talked before about the fact that in my own transition, as I await a human heart to replace the left ventricle assist device that currently keeps me in my world out of the hospital. It keeps my heart pumping and beating in such a way that I'm able to live and lead my life in a way that has been more than satisfactory. So I think a lot about transition. And for me, this is what I call my transition help framework. It starts with awareness, preparation, grow model, emotional intelligence, support, and grit. I'm going to share pieces of this, but again, this is the centerpiece of the work that I do now. And in many ways, I share it as much as I can because it is about transition. We spend so much time talking about transform people, transform people. However, in order to transform ourselves and help other people to transform, we need a framework of what that transition will look like. For many people, that transition is through programs like 12-step recovery, and the multiple pathways of recovery offer a framework for change, a framework for a transition process that will hopefully lead to a transformation. Remember that. Appreciate what your transformation to become who you are today involved. And I'd be surprised if it didn't at some level embrace many of these circles. So I want you to think about it now in relation to the transition out of your cocoon and into the what they call quotation marks around it, the new normal. Relative to your awareness, how aware are you of your beliefs and emotions as you emerge from your cocoon? How aware have you been of your beliefs and your emotions as you were in your cocoon? And what are the emotions and the beliefs that begin to emerge as you begin to emerge, transition out of and from your cocoon? Preparation. How prepared are you to emerge from your cocoon? And how do you know that you have adequate preparation? How do you know that your preparation is adequate to put you into the new normal and allow you to embrace your vision of what and how you want your life to be as you move out of the cocoon, as you spread your wings? Yes, 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 yes. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. The conflict which necessarily precedes our change. And that's the conflict I'm asking you to look at. That's healthy stuff. It puts us in a position to be aware and to make effort. Grow. I like this model. Again, if you've seen my transition help framework, if you've been through a couple of webinars that I've introduced this in previously, one of them I think was back in May of last year, you saw the grow model. It's a wonderful coach's model. It's a wonderful model that offers a framework for coaching. How do you intend to grow? And you can't see the word because the ink melts. But how do it's a purple that I probably should have put in the yellow. I thought about it, but how do you intend to grow into the new normal? How do you intend to grow into the new normal? These are questions. Again, when I facilitate a process, when I facilitate a meeting, when I work one-to-one, when I offer support to enhance the performance of recovery coaches, I'm acting in the role of a coach, in my role as a master coach, someone who's offered Recovery Coach Academy for 10 years and I don't know how many times, and someone who prior to that wonderful opportunity of facilitating Recovery Coach Academy, I've had lots of experience in making a humble effort to lend power to other people. And that's clearly put me in a position of appreciating my role and hopefully helping you to appreciate your role. So as you hear me do what I say and do what I do, pay attention to how I do it. Because I'm making an honest effort to, whether I can't listen, but I can certainly pay attention to it as heart and meaning for you as participants by reading through your what you share with me in the chat, and I get curious about it, and out of that curiosity, I build what I believe are good questions. And in that whole process, I'm looking to manage my own stuff. And I talk about that in relation to the fact that I want you to, I'll share with you in a minute, Carlos. I want you to think about and pay attention to how I do what I do. The bottom line, folks, I'm coaching you. I'm coaching you. And I'm paying big attention to treating you as resources, reading what you write, being curious, and seeking to discover what you're thinking about and talking about. So I'm asking good questions. And these questions that are lined up to the right of my transition health framework image are good questions. These are good questions for you to ask yourself and answer for yourself. These are good questions for you to begin to have conversations that matter with people that you help and within the context of culture vision, or what I call supervision, where our visions come together and we help each other to move through the challenges that we face. All will be revealed especially what does grow mean. I'll remind you of that. I discover more and more stuff every day, and then I got to figure out how to manage it. Big time, Stacy. And at some level, Stacy, you're teaching what you're learning, because there's no doubt in my mind that part of how this particular topic came about as you being paying attention to its heart and meaning for you, as you have been in your cocoon and having been your active um, connecting with people's self in the way that you used to, and that's been all of our experiences. So this is a very potent topic, and please pay attention to what has heart and meaning for you, and take it beyond this learning. Leaving the cocoon. Again, an image that I've shared before, as I've shared the concept of my framework for transition help. Think about the transition that we go through, and we have already gone through, many of us, in our lives. It's a transition from addictions, barriers, confinement, dependence, exclusion, and fear. And that transition hopefully provides and presents us with a transformation that becomes acceptance, belonging, connection, personal and professional development, engagement, and freedom. Again, folks, all of what we do, because there's such a spiritual nature to it, fits together. There's a spiritual foundation to this work that is universal. So think about transition, transformation, moving from the cocoon or the caterpillar state into the cocoon, into beginning to test our wings as we leave the cocoon, and the freedom of the full flight of a butterfly. That's what this is about. As long as we are alive, there will be stuff that needs to be managed. And I'm grateful for that, because it shows I'm alive. It shows that at some level there are lessons to be learned that I am learning. The transition to the new normal. I always hesitate to use that word normal, because what the hell is normal? But I want you to think about what you perceive to be normal for you, what you perceive to be acceptable for you. And think about that, and helping people that you help think about that as well. Begin with the end in mind. Envisioning leaving the cocoon. More questions. And these are questions to be asked. These are questions to be explored. These are concepts and matters to be discovered and uncovered. This is a part of my discovering so that I can manage my stuff. So think about it. What matters regarding addictions, barriers, confinement, dependence, exclusion or disconnection, and fear and anxiety? These are experiences of recovery from my relationship with alcohol and stress and racism. And I am finding that there are also matters that are coming into play as I think about leaving my cocoon. And again, I'd be surprised if you're not envisioning emerging from the coronavirus cocoon, some or many of these issues don't come up. I will be surprised if you don't experience them or see them. Welcome, Brian. We're on page 7. You haven't missed a lot. There goes that image again, the transition help framework. Here I've got the word awareness, which is the beginning of the transition process. The awareness. Oops, what's that? There we go. My favorite image, the recovery coaching fundamental three-legged stool. I've got highlighted the middle leg of the stool because I want you to focus on discovering and managing your stuff. as we move through this webinar. I want you to focus on a key part of awareness is discovering your stuff. Coronavirus awareness. Think about this. When unfortunate things happen in our lives, there are two possible results. And it has been unfortunate to be trapped or encased in a cocoon. When unfortunate things happen in our lives, there are two possible results. One possibility is that we have mental unrest, anxiety, fear, doubt, frustration, and eventually depression, and in the worst case scenario, suicide. It's been the nature of the beast of this virus that people have experienced all of these unfortunate occurrences as a result of the unfortunate happening of the coronavirus. The other possibility is that because of the tragic experience, you become more realistic, you become close to reality. With the power of investigation, the tragic experience may make you stronger and increase your self-confidence and your self-reliance. The unfortunate event can be a source of inner strength. This is a quote from the Dalai Lama. Think about it in the context of the coronavirus cocoon that we have existed in for a while now. Those two possibilities and a mixture of those two. There's a both andness that goes on relative to this particular statement. There is both unrest as well as becoming more realistic. And how are you going to lead your life as you emerge from this cocoon? Awareness speaks to getting our head out of the sand, understanding the root causes of our beliefs, our thoughts, and our emotions, and opening our eyes. Awareness, critical to the initial part. Think about step 1 of 12-step programs, the awareness that's critical to begin the process. I am aware that my life has become unmanageable. Envision leaving the cocoon. What matters regarding the 4 addictions? Addiction to intensity, addiction to perfection, addiction to the need to know, addiction to being fixated on what's not working rather than what is working. What do you envision mattering as you emerge from your coronavirus cocoon? What matters regarding these 4 addictions apply to our leaving the cocoon? I'm going to run through this because we saw this piece a couple of webinars ago when we looked at my favorite work by Angus Arian. I'm going to give you a quick run through, but again, I'm going to run through each of the bullets, hoping that you will look at it with an opportunity to discover what might be some of your stuff. Wake the flock up. Yeah. Okay, that's just my reminder. Discover your stuff so you can manage your stuff. Doesn't matter as you emerge from your coronavirus cocoon that you might have become addicted or are addicted to intensity. This is demonstrated by people who have a low tolerance for boredom. Think about that in the cocoon. Life becomes too dull a routine. Intensity addicts will dramatize, sensationalize, and exaggerate their life experience in order to feel alive. And many intensity addicts will use drugs, alcohol, and sex to intensify their experience and create the illusions of more vitality and aliveness. No doubt, this has happened for many, this addiction to intensity while in the cocoon, because the opportunities to explore and act on that intensity that may have more helpful prospects were shut off by our seclusion within the cocoon. Avoiding endless projection into an unknown future over which I have no control. Exactly. So believe it and live it. Again, the reminder, discover your stuff. You can be an intensity addict or an ongoing intensity addict and having stopped drug or alcohol use. Think about that. When your life becomes dull or routine, how do you respond now that responding to alcohol has been demonstrated, or responding to drugs, or responding to sex, or responding to through the problems in living that help us to deal with the intensity? How are you surviving in the cocoon, and how will you survive as you leave the cocoon? Does this matter as you emerge from your coronavirus cocoon? The addiction to perfection, little tolerance for mistakes, little tolerance for exposure, vulnerability. Equate vulnerability with weakness rather than strength. Gosh, I'm admitting that I'm old when I verbalize that I'm 69 years old and I am vulnerable as I leave the cocoon. I expose that vulnerability. I must, in order to accept what I can't change and what I must change. The addiction to perfection is the denial of our humanness and invests our energy in maintaining a cultivated image or facade, a social mask, of how we want to be seen rather than exposing who we truly are. We may have put some masks on while we're in the cocoon. Can we begin to wear them outside of the cocoon? That is the question. It's a part of discovering our stuff so we can manage our stuff. Sharon is finding it more comfortable and more comforting in her recovery, i.e., the dull and the routine. Me too. It's not even dull, it's life. And it's not even routine, it's habits. Does this matter as you emerge from your coronavirus cocoon? The addiction to the need to know. Think about that in the context of emerging from that cocoon. What do you need to know before you feel comfortable leaving the cocoon? Or there are those of us who says, I don't need to know anything. I know enough to go out the way I want to go out. But there may be more that you need to know. The addiction to the need to know is being driven and compulsive about the need to know or the need to understand. If you've been paying attention to what the scientists speak when they talk about this coronavirus, they don't understand it totally. And so if we need to know and to understand before we feel the ability to move forward or the ability to stay put, that's an addiction that's harmful. The addiction to the need to know is disliking surprises or unexpected events. How comfortable are you with the unexpected event of being in a cocoon for 2 months? And how comfortable are you for you to move out into your world and not be able to engage in everything that you did before you were in the cocoon? The addiction to know is being the master of control with strong trust issues. Think about the challenges that we have in trusting who we listen to or who we hear relative to this virus and its course. We're inflexible, blameless, critical, and arrogant when we have the addiction to need to know. And sometimes our addiction to need to know is the belief or the perception that I know it all. Not. I just heard that there are folks with quarantine FMO, fear of missing out. They see others as social media posting that they are doing things and they fear that they are not doing anything productive with their time since they are quarantined. It's amazing that outer reach for inner security or that outer reach for knowledge and wisdom. And we don't know where the hell or who the hell is coming from and what their motives are. I think that's the power of discovering my stuff and appreciating these addictions and how these addictions may affect my stuff. The addiction to be fixating on what's not working rather than what is working. This is a tendency to look at life from a fixed perspective, a black and white thinking perspective. It's a lack of recognition of personal blind stuffs, which really generates what my stuff is. It's a tendency to magnify negative experiences and blow them out of proportion. But though, many people have said it was the worst thing in the world to happen to be stuck in this coronavirus cocoon. That's a fixed perspective. That's blowing things out of proportion. When in reality, there's an opportunity to balance the experience. No, it's not fun not to be able to go where we want to go and be who we want to be with. But it's also not fun to put my life or the lives of others into jeopardy, I believe. Being addicted to being fixated on what's not working rather than what is working is an inability to trust intuitive information. So we don't trust intuitive information. Many times we trust information outside of ourselves that might be fake news, or it might be propaganda, or it might just be someone looking to push us aside so that they can move ahead of us. This is all about discovering your stuff. And I hope these questions help in that process. There's a cocoon. And the question is, how's the coronavirus cocoon working for you? How's the coronavirus cocoon working for you? And again, folks, appreciate the both andness or the potential of both andness to this response. It is both a plus and a minus. It is both good and bad. It is both helpful and unhelpful. And appreciate it for what it is, not what you want it to be. So how's the coronavirus working for you? And that's an image of a cocoon. How's the coronavirus cocoon working for you in your cocoon? Is this you? With your head slumped down, your shoulders hunched, and the response to how are you doing? I'm okay. And you're dragging stress. That little ball says doubt and anxiety. What a powerful image. Is that you in your coronavirus cocoon? Has that been you? The duality of the nature of life itself, the both andness. I say I'm okay, but maybe that's me not willing to be vulnerable, me not willing to be honest, or me just denying. Don't even notice I am limited in the experience and the expression of what I'm feeling. Many times as helpers, we put on this I'm okay face, or this I'm okay attitude, or this I'm okay sense, so that we can help others, which helps us at some level. But if you're dragging anxiety, stress, doubt, or depression, that's your stuff. And work hard as you spread your wings to leave that stuff in the cocoon. How's the coronavirus cocoon working for you? Does it express itself in depression, fear, anxiety, arousal, accidents, trauma, behavior, low mood? All of these elements that can be a part of who we are as we are in our cocoon and as we begin to spread our wings to move beyond our cocoon. How's the coronavirus cocoon working for you? And I could have put working on you. Because sometimes this stuff works on us to the point that our awareness is not sharp. Remember, we're talking about awareness here. How's the coronavirus cocoon working for you? This one might be a little bit harder to read, but what it talks about is being in contact. Are you in your cocoon in contact with the present moment? being in the now, being psychologically flexible, being present, open, doing what matters to you, practicing acceptance and willingness, open to whatever comes, practicing thought diffusion, observing thoughts as they come and go without attaching meaning or judgment, detaching from those thoughts, especially the negative ones, practicing in your own chosen values, knowing what matters in your life and what can guide your behaviors in your life, and committed action, effective mental and physical actions guided by values. How's your coronavirus working for you? Hopefully, more than not, it's working in this way. You're psychologically flexible, you're present, you're open, and you're doing what matters to you. And we'll continue to do that as you spread your wings. And Disney leaving the cocoon. I loved it. Doesn't it? I mean, for me, it honestly looks like, being in a cocoon, if I can envision what that might look like. And for me, it might also look like, the child in the womb. But envisioning leaving the cocoon, envisioning getting beyond the anxiety that has been so focused, and the worry, and the angst, and the sweating, and the stress, and the fear, and the scared feelings, the panic attacks, the tenseness. These are experiences people have had in this cocoon or a shower. Yeah, that's another one. Okay. The anxiety of living in the cocoon. What matters regarding fear, anxiety, and depression as you envision emerging from the cocoon, coronavirus cocoon? Are you going to take that with you? Are you taking that with you and not appreciating how depressed, how anxiety provoking, and how fearful it not only was living in the cocoon, but it's not easy to step out of that cocoon because we don't know what we don't know, what's in the environment that we have been so isolated from. And that's a proper fear. That's a proper anxiety. And that's a proper potential for depression. But how do you envision that? And how do you discover that in yourself and others? And help others to talk about and think about it. Preparation. Proactive preparation powers peak performance. This applies in every area of living. As I talk to you about recovery coach performance support, I will say to you, proactive preparation powers peak performance. As I'm chatting with my grandson and we're talking about his future, or my granddaughter, and we're talking about their future, or their exams, or their workload, or their athletic activities, proactive preparation powers peak performance is the message I pass on to them. And I'm passing it on to you to help you to think about being proactive in preparing to spread your wings as you prepare to leave the cocoon. Wow, this looks familiar. It's the preparation stage from the Recovery Coach Participants Manual from Recovery Coach Academy. Embrace it in a different way. Embrace it in a way that you are looking about, one, for yourself, preparing yourself to move beyond the cocoon. Two, for people that you care about and you care for, to help them to prepare, to move beyond the cocoon. The important concepts here are proactive preparation powers peak performance again. And you've already got a framework for preparation. Be proactive in it, please, folks. Please be proactive. Please be proactive. If I go back, instead of the recovery task, It's the recovery coach task to move from preparation to action as you spread your wings to move beyond the cocoon. Versus the recovery coach role in this preparation stage, if coacher vision comes to play. Hang out with other coaches. Coaching coaches in coming beyond out of the cocoon. Very powerful topic for a coacher vision session. Think about a Zoom session where you coacher vision each other, where you bring that concept to play as you move beyond the cocoon. Good stuff, Woodard. You teach best what you most need to learn. So many of you have taught the stages of change. Lead them with a vision and live them. That's what I'm suggesting as you begin to spread your wings to come out of the cocoon. And again, this is about discovering and managing your stuff. Discover yourself relative to your willingness to perform these tasks and your willingness to engage with others, to coach revise each other. Grow. This is for you, Carlos. Grow. This is a part of the transition framework. The GROW model offers help of preparation to action. The GROW model is moving from preparation into G, stands for goal development. R stands for reality awareness. O stands for options. And W stands for a way forward. Through goal development, through living with the reality, and in reality, especially in the environment of the new normal, looking at our options and finding a way forward. This is how we help recoverees, and this is how we help ourselves to prepare to act in being in the new normal. Just a reminder here, coaching, as I have come to believe it, is helping people with their thinking. I think one of my most powerful, or what I want to call it, skills in coaching, in mentoring, in helping, in grandparenting, is my ability to help people to think about things in a way they haven't thought about it before. That's how I help people with their thinking. I don't tell them how to think. That's treating them like an object. I share how I think, and I ask good questions out of curiosity to explore how they are thinking. And we talk about their thinking. Those are conversations that matter. Grit. I decided to add this only because I could talk about emotional intelligence, but we talked about emotional intelligence in a previous webinar. We all talk a lot about support, and at some point I'll come back talking about it. But we don't talk enough about grit. My granddaughter has grit. She demonstrated grit on a couple of occasions to me. A couple of years ago, my granddaughter tore her ACL and had a meniscus tear. And she said, and Grandpa was sad and beyond repair. And I was telling her how sad I was for her. And she looked me in the eye and she said, Grandpa, minor setback, big comeback. And she did it. After she worked with physical therapy, which she now wants to be a physical therapist, as a freshman at Eastern Connecticut State University, she decided she wanted to be a physical therapist, but she went back and she played soccer in her last senior in high school. And she went back and was a part of a state championship basketball team. And she was a vital cog. She walked on to Eastern Connecticut State University as a walk-on, no scholarship, and won a uniform on the team. That's grit. And I want you to think about it. That's grit. And what is it? Grit is your capacity to dig deep, to do whatever it takes, especially struggle, sacrifice, and even suffer to achieve your most worthy goals. That's grit. And we need to talk more about grit. And we need to teach recoverees more about grit, because that will help them to move forward. I asked my granddaughter about 2 weeks ago, did she have grit? And she said no, because she was in the throes of final exams. And picture that, doing those from home on computer. So there was there was doubt in her mind. And I reminded her, well, if you don't believe you got grit, I believe you got grit. And you know what? She talked to us yesterday. She's done well in her exams. And she was feeling more confidence. She was feeling more self-assurance. And I asked her yesterday, you got grit? Yeah, Grandpa, I got grit. Grit is growth. It's your propensity to seek and, and consider new ideas, additional alternatives, different approaches, and fresh perspectives. Grit is resilience, your capacity to respond constructively and ideally and make good use of all kinds of adversity, like being in coronavirus cocoon. Grit is your instinct, your gut level capacity to pursue the right goals in the best and smartest ways. And grit is tenacity, the degree to which you persist, commit to, stick with, and relentlessly go after whatever you choose to achieve. That's how you begin to spread your wings well. That's how your wings will develop in a way that will make the confinement of the coronavirus cocoon well worth our while. Do it with grit. Do it with grit. Thoughts, questions, comments? We're at the end. I've enjoyed it. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for coming again and again and again. I appreciate your input and I appreciate your participation. Thank you, Carlos, Deborah, Eric. Welcome, guys. Oh, Stacy, thank you. Stacy and I get together. She has a vision, I have a vision, and it becomes this super vision that produces this webinar. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. One, keep coming and keep doing it. Spread your wings with confidence and carefulness. Balance that. Miss you too, Robin. Welcome. Oh, John, is always a pleasure. Oh, I intend to stay safe. Yeah, I continue to try to wake the flock up. I appreciate the opportunities that I get to do this. It keeps me alive, or it keeps my passion alive. And believe me, it's making my vulnerability well worth it and acceptable. Oh, please get the PowerPoint, folks. Make it work for you. Teach what you've learned. Take a takeaway and share it. Yes, I live in Middletown. I live right on the Middletown Cromwell line. Oh, wow. I missed you, Laura D. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone, thank you. Be safe, be careful, be aware. Till next time.